Facts Verse presents. Man sees drowning deer and jumps into freezing cold water in just his boxers. Deer are beautiful creatures, yet somehow, regardless of their beauty, they're always threatened. Hunters go out every winter trying to kill as many deer as possible, and that often leaves mothers without their babies and babies without their mothers. Deer will often cross the street, which puts them at risk of being hit by cars. The deer in this story was just a baby, and she needed help immediately. Fortunately, she had an unexpected hero. Marc Headson is a painter and a decorator from Gainsborough, Lincolnshire. He was out driving with his friend Jamie Toyne one day, going to pick up his daughter. On a typical day, Marc would not be on this particular stretch of highway. Instead, he would be at work. Because it was cold that day and it was raining heavily, Marc didn't have to work. So he decided to get some food with Jamie and then offered to pick up his daughter. Everything was going fine until Marc saw something in the water. Marc was driving on the highway by a canal, and driving by he saw something in the water that at first he thought was a fish. He would often fish in the canal, so he stopped to get a closer look at the size of this fish that was making such a big splash. But when he got closer, he realized that wasn't a fish. It was a baby deer struggling to stay afloat. Jamie sat as Marc got out of the car and took off his pants. He had no idea what his friend was doing. When Marc had his shirt and pants off, he jumped into the stream and pulled out the baby deer. When Jamie realized what his friend was doing, he took out his phone and began recording the rescue. Marc was waist-deep in the freezing water trying to reach the baby deer. She was panicking, so Marc tried to soothe her by talking quietly so that he could get her out of the water. When Marc got the baby deer up on land, he grabbed his jacket and pants. He wasn't getting his clothes to put them on due to the cold weather, though. He was getting them to wrap up the deer to keep her warm. Her body was wet and cold, and Marc didn't know how long she'd been out in the water. He wrapped her tightly in his arms and held her for a few minutes. When she got too heavy to carry, he put her down on the ground, still wrapped in his clothing. The entire time Marc was soaking wet, freezing, and standing there just in his boxers. Marc and Jamie knew the deer needed more help than they could give, so they were going to call an animal rescue group. First, they needed to get her out of the cold. Fortunately, they did have a friend who lived nearby, so they decided to bring her there so that she could get warm. They also gave her something to eat and drink while they waited for someone to come for her. While Marc and Jamie waited at their friend's house for the deer to be picked up by the rescuers, Jamie decided to post the video of the rescue on Facebook. He says it's not every day that somebody does what Marc did to save an animal. It's also rare that somebody's standing nearby to capture the entire thing on film. Well, it wasn't long before the video of Marc's selfless rescue went viral. Thousands of people had shared, liked, and commented on the post in only a few days. Most of the people who commented praised Marc for his quick thinking to save the baby deer from drowning. Most people called him a hero. Jamie updated his post a few days later and revealed that the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust did arrive at the friend's house shortly after they saved the baby deer. They were going to take her and nurse her back to health. When she gets a bit older, they do plan to release her back into the wild in one of their nature reserves. What Marc and Jamie did for this baby deer that day was amazing. Had they not stopped to help, she likely would have tired and drowned, or maybe even froze to death. Marc got out of that car, stripped down to his boxers, and jumped into a freezing cold stream to save the life of a baby deer. Now that is a true hero. If you agree, click that like button. Also, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos.